Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my special guest is Jordan Gross. Jordan is an author, and he is a Northwestern and Kellogg School of Management graduate. He is a startup founder, a 2 times TEDx speaker, and a #1 best-selling author. His new book, The Journey to Cloud 9, provides a new approach to the personal development world by using fictional storytelling to reveal some of life's most meaningful principles. Jordan has been blazing new trails for people around the world, and he cannot wait to share all that with you, and I cannot wait to hear about it. Jordan Gross, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, Neil? Thank you so much for having me on the show. Super excited to be chatting, and really grateful that you asked me to come on. So just really pumped to be with you.
Well, I'm excited to hear about the book because I started reading the book and found myself completely captured in it right from
that's the goal.
First pages. So, I want to hear more about the meaning behind the book, what it's all about. But I want to start with one of the reviews that somebody left for the book, and they said It's as meaningful as The Alchemist. I loved The Alchemist. It was a great book.
Too. Yeah.
As brilliantly told as The Life of Pi. Now, I haven't read that book, but I loved the movie.
Same with me. I haven't read the book either.
And as inspirational as Eat, Pray, Love. Now, I don't know too much about that one, but I do know it was a bestseller. Those are some pretty impressive words. So obviously this book is, having an impact on people's lives. So can you tell us, just to get started, a little bit about the book, a brief overview before we get into more depth here?
Absolutely, Neil. And thank you for reading that. That was definitely one of the most meaningful reviews that I received because of the company that it put me in, right? Alchemist. The Alchemist is one of my favorite books of all time. Like you said, Life of Pi is also one of my favorite movies. And then Eat, Pray, Love. It's funny, like you and I were kind of the same on those 3 books. I never read, but I saw the movie of Eat, Pray, Love. So just to be in that sentence with those other works was really, really meaningful to me. But what I did with The Journey to Cloud 9 is I wanted to create a book that shared life lessons, but I really wanted it to entertain. I really wanted it to be fun and enjoyable to learn about how you should live your life. But I didn't want to provide this prescriptive how-to advice or self-help book that we so often get in the personal development world. So I did a lot of the research, right? I interviewed hundreds of people. I did a lot of reading about euphoria because Cloud 9 is obviously related to ecstasy and happiness, right? So I did a lot of research into positive psychology, but I basically said, Neil, do I want to just share my research or do I want to do something that's more creative? And I chose to do something that's more creative because I love stories. And just like with The Alchemist, I was able to get more insight into the way that I wanted to live my life, just like the protagonist in The Alchemist, than I do when I just read a book that says, here are the 5 key elements of your day, and now go put these key elements into your day and report back and see how it goes, right? So that's what The Journey to Cloud 9 is all about. It's without giving too much away, because I know we'll go more into it, it's a story about a man's life, and this man is named Jerry. And throughout Jerry's life, he lived according to societal expectations. He lived according to what people around him were telling him to do. And you see very quickly that this led to a life of isolation, regret, and depression. But what I also do with the book is that I juxtapose this life, his real life, with what I call his Cloud 9 life. And this is the life that he could have lived had he made decisions that were based more on his heart and his gut and his intuition. So the book goes back and forth between numerous events in his life where, you know, in real life he chose societal expectations versus cloud nine he could have chose intuition, and you get to see how these two lives differ. So as a reader, the goal is for you to say, okay, I want to live my life this way in this experience. I want to do intuition here. I want to follow other people's advice in that scenario, and start looking at your own life in the way that Jerry did his.
So who would you say that this book is for? Is it in the, self-development niche?
It definitely is in the self-development niche. But as I go, so each chapter is like a pivotal life moment or a turning point in somebody's life, right? So there's a chapter where Jerry has the opportunity to pursue an entrepreneurial endeavor or stay at his corporate job, right? And that chapter can speak very nicely to somebody who's thinking about leaving their career and starting something new and different and fresh, right? There's a chapter about love and relationships. There's a chapter about friendship and camaraderie, right? So it touches on all aspects of life, but the main theme, rather than boiling it down to like it's for an entrepreneur or it's for a stay-at-home mom or dad, right? The main theme is that it's for anybody looking to embrace getting out of their comfort zone, embrace making a decision that might be a change, that might be a little bit scary or different or new. I'd say that's who the book is for when it really comes down to how all these experiences come together.
Yeah, and thinking about the time that we're in right now to date this podcast, we're, right in the middle of this pandemic and,
right.
Hopefully coming out of it pretty soon. But it's a scary time for a lot of people where they are going to be uncomfortable and there are going to be changes in their lives ahead of them. What are they going to be able to get out of this book that's going to prepare them for what might be coming in life?
Yeah, that's so true. And I hope all of the listeners are safe and happy and healthy. I know you and I chatted before, Neil, and I'm glad to hear everything's going well with you and your world and with your family. But you're right. And it's funny. My next book is about navigating uncertainty, right? So very much in line with what's going on now. But in relation to the journey to Cloud Nine, something that's so important is that when you look at Jerry's life, the life that he lived versus the life that he could have lived, it's about avoiding a life of regret. So when I translate that over to people in their current situations, whatever they're doing moving forward, it's about fearing the what if I don't do something more than you fear what if I do something, right? I want you to think that it's going to be a much greater experience to go ahead and pick up the phone and make the call to an old friend than it is to, project 2 years into the future, look back and say, what if I would have called that old friend, right? So that's what the journey to Cloud Nine, that's what living a Cloud Nine life is all about. It's taking the more challenging route, the one that is a little bit more daunting, and knowing that that's the one that's going to be more rewarding and more fulfilling in the end.
So what was your reason for writing this book? Because I see a lot of people that are just kind of stuck in, their lives, basically. Is that, what you have seen as well? And
so two reasons. I mean, the one is the story behind the book is that I was riding in the back of an Uber, and I would usually talk to my Uber driver nonstop, right? But for some reason, I was just in the back seat, not really chatting. And I saw a boat in New York City in the East River called Cloud Nine. And I asked the driver what Cloud Nine meant to him. And the way that he lit up when he was talking about his Cloud Nine experiences in getting married, having children, thinking back to his childhood, thinking about his family and his career, right? I wanted to get that feeling out of more people. So I asked more and more individuals what their Cloud Nine moments were, how they lived a Cloud Nine life. And the true joy that it radiated was just electrifying, right? For me and for them. And then as I started sharing it with other people. So I wanted, one, to share and spread joy and positivity. Two was that as I found more and more insights, I realized that the journey to Cloud Nine and this character, Jerry, there's so much of me in it, right? And I think that Jerry is a character who was somebody who I was. So I was a guy for a long time, Neil, who was just going through the motions on the hamster wheel, doing what everybody in society expected me to do, right? So Jerry is who I was. It's who I could become had I not made a change. It's also a warning to myself saying, hey, you better think about, living your Cloud9 life so you don't end up like Jerry. And then obviously his Cloud9 side of things is who I am now, living according to my intuition, what I truly want to do, and then sharing that with other people, right? Mm-hmm. So I wrote it to share my own story. But like I said in the beginning, I wanted to do it in this creative, fun, entertaining way so that people could feel the advice and lessons I was trying to share, as opposed to just be told that advice.
Well, it's definitely a book that really gets you captured right away and pulled into the story, and you're with Jerry. You're like, come on, Jerry, you can snap out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to get to that Cloud9. And I think that's where a lot of us are. We're just, we're living that life day to day, maybe in a job that we don't like, or, even a relationship that we don't like, but we don't want to be uncomfortable and take that extra step to, make things a little bit different. And we're dreaming. What was the idea behind that Cloud9? Because we all have these dreams that we want to do this, but we never quite get to it. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite quotes out of one of my favorite books is from James Allen, As a Man Thinketh. He says, you cannot travel within and stand still without. And I think that's where a lot of people are today.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love how you bring up dreams. I love how you bring up the journey to Cloud9, right? Because the book is very specifically called The Journey to Cloud9 for a reason, right? And what I actually do is that each chapter is a different cloud in this dreamlike visualized experience that Jerry is having, as in his real life he sleeps in his bed, right? So it is a journey in which he goes from Cloud1, learns a lesson, Cloud2, learns a lesson, all the way to Cloud9. And for me, in the life that I want people to live, the life that I'm living, is enjoying each cloud, enjoying each experience as its own experience, not just thinking that when you get to Cloud9, you will finally have your happiness, right? It's about enjoying the entire process. So that's really important to me. And then in regard to how it came to be, it's kind of a funny story. I create based off of what I consume, right? So this book has heavy influence from my favorite writer, Mitch Albom. So Mitch Albom wrote, Tuesdays with Morrie, but the book that's most similar to this is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, where what happens in the book is, the main character is in heaven and he meets certain people who had some sort of impact in his life. And when I first came up with the idea for the Journey to Cloud9, it was an interpretation of a heaven-like experience where you get to heaven and you get to relive a life experience on Cloud1, relive a life experience on Cloud2, and then finally when you get to Cloud9, you get to relive your entire life in its, maximum state and optimizing how your life could have been, right? But I wanted to make living a Cloud9 life available to readers while they're here on Earth, right? I want to create this heaven-like experience while you're here on Earth and encourage you to live the life of your dreams right now and not wait. So that was really important to me.
So what do you think, if there's one thing that really holds people back from living that Cloud9 life, what do you think it is?
Yeah, so I think it's a lack of imaginativation. And I feel that you're not saying anything because you never heard that word before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I read it in something that you wrote to me, and I was
Yeah.
trying to figure that one out. But is that something that you just
Yeah. So,
created yourself?
yep. So this is this is like what powers my life. It powers the way that I write. It powers how I work with clients, with friends. It really, all of my decision making processes. And I think it's when we have a lack of this word that we don't want to move forward, or we don't know how to move forward. So even though it's tough to say imagitivitation, it's really simple. It's just a combination of imagination, interpretation, creativity, and implementation, right? So
Mm,
first and foremost, I think when people feel stuck, it's because they've been prevented from using their imagination, right? They don't bring out the inner child. They don't think about what they wanted to be when they grew up. They think that that's foolish or silly, right? So the imagination is thwarted. But when people can envision and dream, like we just talked about, what their life could look like, what changes they can make, if they could really see themselves in a life, years down the road that they really enjoy living, then that's going to get them motivated as to, how they can start making a change. Then for me, it's about interpretation, right? So finding the why. Why is this the life that you want to live? So again, when people aren't experiencing this, it's because they don't really understand why they don't want to be the way that they are right now. So it's about doing that deep dive into yourself, the introspective piece, and interpreting why, you feel that you should be doing something different than you are now. And then after that, once you have those two things down, it's about using your creativity to create a plan. So again, most of the time, people don't really know how to create a plan, how to go about, changing course, switching directions, right? So you have to get creative with it. Maybe that takes some reverse engineering and working backwards as to how to attain your goals, or maybe it takes some creative networking and phone calls, right? But you have to get a little bit creative in making a plan to get to where you want to be. And
mhm.
then finally, implementation, right? This is simple. This is your trial and error. This is your treating life like an experiment. It's your going into every situation, understanding that it's a learning experience rather than a win or a lose, right? So this is when you actually go about doing all these things that you planned, and seeing whether or not you're enjoying the process of living the life that you so have chosen.
So there's a lot of people that have been working in a corporate environment, or maybe just the same job for year upon year, not really fulfilled in what they're doing, and they're
Mhm.
looking for something else. What is your advice to them? What makes them come to the decision that they are going to do something different and then implement it, like you said?
Yeah, so that's a really tricky question, and I'll just speak to my own experience. There were really two things that I asked myself when I quit my job and decided to help people for a living through writing and speaking and coaching. Um, One, I really assessed my energy levels, right? And it was tough for me because I'm a positive, upbeat, optimistic guy. But I realized that that positivity and optimism was being forced when I was in my old position. I was forcing it. I had to try really hard to come every day to work with that kind of mentality. And then the second thing I asked myself was just quite simply, if I leave, are there still people who love and support me? And that's all I needed to answer yes to, right? Are there still people who are going to love and support me? And then once I said yes to that, I knew, boom, I had the safety cushion, the network, the care and encouragement that I needed to go ahead and pursue whatever was next.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think there's, a lot of people. Obviously, you want to have your finances sorted, and
Hmm.
everybody's got bills to pay. But
Yeah, of course.
there's a lot of people that have been kind of jolted right now out of that comfort zone. What's your advice
Right.
to them to really think about moving forward? Because there's a whole lot of fear in the world right now, and fear, paralyzes people, makes them stop. and not really do anything. What's your advice for them to, move forward and maybe try and find fulfillment in their job or find something that they're more passionate about?
So I have two. Well, first and foremost, you got to use your imaginativation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That process is just paramount. Imagine what your life could look like, interpret why that's the life you want to live, create a way to get there, and then start implementing your plan, right? But the implementation piece is scary, right? So to address that, my other bit of advice, and this comes back to the journey to Cloud Nine, would be to find a really amazing co-pilot. So in the book, there's a character named CP, and he is Jerry's co-pilot as Jerry flies his plane across the sky in his Cloud Nine life. And what CP does is he provides the support and the guidance and the words of encouragement that Jerry needs, not to totally dictate the way that he wants to be going, but just to guide him in the right way, right? So this is when you find a mentor, a friend, a parent, a coach, a teacher to really help you make the leap, to really help you get through this moment, right? Because once you have that, then it feels like you're not alone. It feels like you're not doing this scary journey all by yourself. So finding that co-pilot is just paramount. And then last but not least, I'm not a super faith-driven or religious person, but I believe in hope and optimism more than anything, right? And in times of uncertainty, that's what we need to latch onto. It's this hope, this faith, this belief that whatever is going on is an experience with which we can learn from, and it's an experience that will give us a story to tell moving forward, right? So what story are you going to want to tell about this time, say 5, 10, 20 years in the future? Are you going to want to tell the story where you just kind of, stayed on the ground and didn't pick yourself back up? Or are you going to want to tell the story of resilience and bootstrapping and, reaching out and making new connections and doing something daring, right? I think, you want to tell that more exciting story, which is obviously the latter rather than the former.
And definitely. And, you're going to get a great story in the journey to Cloud Nine. Confront the past and redefine the future is, it's a great message for right now. Jordan, where is a good place where people can find the book and pick it up to be able to read it?
Yeah, so there's free chapters on my website. It's journeytocloud9.com, all spelled out, journeytocloud9.com. And you just go to the book page and there's some free chapters available. And then hopefully you like the free chapters, and then you'll head over to Amazon, where it's just, The Journey to Cloud 9 by Jordan Gross on Amazon. And right now I made it 99 cents for the ebook, just because I want it to be as available as possible, because it really is a way to help people navigate change and uncertainty, provide them with some hope, and allow them to live a life without regret. So it's really accessible at the moment.
Definitely. Well, go pick that up. I'm sure it won't be 99 cents forever. What a great value that is. But tell me more about yourself, Jordan, and the business. Obviously, you're a writer and you've written a few books now, and you've got another one coming. Give me a little bit more of your whole business here.
Yeah, so my business works, I have a couple of different income streams, right? So I put it into different buckets. So obviously the books. So this is my second book, The Journey to Cloud 9. My first book was a self-published book called Getting Comfy, Your Morning Guide to Daily Happiness, which is about morning routines and overcoming stress and anxiety when the alarm clock goes off. So that's a fun read. It's more on the traditional self-help side of things, and it's a lot of personal anecdotes and interviews that I did. That was the first thing I did when I quit my job in November 2017. So I have these two books. Like you said, I have a third book coming out March 2021. That's called What Happens in Tomorrow World. It's a short parable about navigating uncertainty. The other bucket is writing articles. So I write articles about personal development, mostly through storytelling, using my own imaginativation. That's my, writing process. I told you I really use it for everything. I write articles for different magazines, for different websites, mostly on medium.com. So it's Jordan Gross on Medium if you ever want to check out my articles there. And then I do speaking. So obviously right now I'm not doing speaking, but I've given 2 TED Talks. The first one was about this, getting comfy book. And the second one was about the concept of fictional storytelling to promote the personal development space. I've spoken in schools and at various companies. So that's always fun. And I'm looking forward to doing that once, it's a little bit safer. I do editing. So I edit people's articles. I love to just read and help people with their writing. And then finally, I do coaching. So first of all, I do personal training just on the side. I love waking up and helping people with their fitness and health in the mornings. But then I do coaching in regard to helping people use their imaginativation to live the life of their dreams. So when you finish the book, if you want to learn how to implement it into your life, I do one-on-one coaching with a couple of clients at a time. So those are all the different buckets that I work in. And, obviously the common factor is that I'm just trying to use my words and my thoughts in order to inspire other people to think differently, act a little bit differently, and ultimately live differently.
Mm. Yeah, well, I noticed in the reviews for your book as well, you've got a review from Hal Elrod, who wrote the Miracle Morning, and obviously that is something that you aspire to kind of have in that morning routine as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. So so grateful and so fortunate to have created a little bit of a relationship with Hal and get his endorsement. And the Miracle Morning was, that was the first real bit of self-help I implemented into my own life, was having a morning routine, becoming a morning person, and understanding that the morning is sacred, right? Because no matter what happens the rest of the day, if you have a beautiful morning routine that focuses on you and the person you really want to be, then it's a great day no matter what. So Hal's been an amazing friend and mentor ever since I first read The Miracle Morning in November 2017-ish, a little earlier maybe.
So tell us about the new book. You say it's coming out in 2021?
Yeah, so March 2021. So now, it's May 13th, 2020. So I've got about a year to really try to spread the word for this thing. It's called What Happens in Tomorrow World, a short parable about navigating uncertainty. And I created a story in which 4 prizes live inside of a big crane game. Those crane games at arcades or like at diners even?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So these 4 characters, Opti, Pessy, Sage, and Chill, live inside this crane game, and they represent 4 different responses to uncertainty. And obviously the uncertainty is whether or not the crane is going to scoop them up and introduce them to the outside world as, whoever is playing the game. So obviously Opti is the optimist, and Pessy is the pessimist, and Sage is kind of like the spiritual one, and Chill is the indifferent one. And those are the 4 different responses to uncertainty that I'm trying to relay to the reader. And then throughout the book, the goal is for the reader to understand, okay, how am I responding to uncertainty? Am I doing a service to myself and people around me, or am I doing a disservice to myself and the people around me based on how I am responding to uncertainty? So it's got that storytelling type of feel with obviously the relatability side. Because like I said, one of my big goals is to make personal development come alive and make it really fun for the reader. So it's a really nice short work about that.
Yeah, well, I've read hundreds of personal development books in my time, but, one of those ones that really stands out is The Alchemist because of just what you said. There's a story behind the message, and I think, the journey to Cloud 9 also is something that's memorable, that's going to be able to stick with you. The lessons that you are able to tell within that story are going to have a lasting effect. And I wish more business books were like that, because some of them can be a little bit dry when it's just informational stuff.
Well, I really appreciate that, Neil. Thank you so much. Just like you, The Alchemist is one of my favorites. The Go-Giver by Bob Berg and John David Mann is one of my favorites. John Gordon's books, The Energy Bus, The Coffee Bean. So I love stories, and that's the world that I want to live in as well. I want to share these stories to help people out with whatever it is that they're doing.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. The Journey to Cloud 9 is available to have a sneak peek on Jordan's website at the journeytocloud9.com. And of course, it is available on Amazon right now as well. Jordan, if you have any closing message for us, what would that be?
Just everyone stay safe, stay safe and happy and healthy. Find your co-pilot, try to live without regret. Try to use your imaginativation in order to really envision and then work on, making a plan to live that life that you deserve. So, Neil, thank you so much. And I really appreciate having this conversation, and thank you for the time.
Well, excellent. And again, great book. Make sure you go pick that up. Jordan Gross, thanks very much for being my guest on the Trust Factor Radio today.
Thank you, Neil. Have an awesome day.
You too. And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we will see you next time on the show.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.